So I'm going to be presenting Athena, goddess of wisdom and crafts, and my name is Ashley, and I'm just going to get right into it. So Athena was born out of Zeus's head, and we all kind of know the story. Hephaestus was ordered to crack open Zeus's head with an axe, and outsprung Athena wearing full battle armor and war crying. And actually, in this scene, people kind of like take a step back and are like worried that she's going to overpower everyone and just like they're all convinced that she's going to hurt them, but she immediately looks around, lays down her weapon, and realizes that she's no harm to anyone, and they've realized that she's no harm to anyone, and she's going to be instantly obedient. And she hardly ever recognizes her mother, even though her mother is Metis. She hardly ever recognizes her mother and usually only thinks of herself of having one parent, which is Zeus. And the only reason she was in Zeus's body in the first place is because Metis was actually um, foretold that she would have two children, one girl and one boy, and the boy was actually destined to basically take over, and he was going to be the lord of the gods and of humans, and he was going to take over all of the gods, and Zeus was just not having that, so he tricked Metis into becoming really, really small, and then he swallowed her. And yeah, that's basically the story of the birth of Athena. And then a little more into it, we get more into Athena's life. She was a virgin goddess, but she was very devoted to Zeus and the other gods, specifically to Zeus. She was really always around him. And when stories are written about Athena, you often see Zeus come up somewhere in the story because she was always with Zeus. And she was very unlike the other virgin goddesses. She would put herself purposely into situations where other men were because she always thought of herself more as a warrior. She had more of a masculine like aura to her. She never avoided uh other male gods um like Artemis and Hestia did. Their way of being a virgin goddess and like keeping themselves away from the male gaze and stuff like that, they would actually physically take themselves out of those situations so they wouldn't be, tortured or whatever. But she was able to work alongside all of these men and she enjoyed it and she never had any problem with being tempted into not being a virgin anymore, which I actually find very interesting. And then she always helped warriors on really long quests. Like specifically, probably some of the most famous warriors that she helped Perseus kill Medusa. She showed him how to use his shield as to look at Medusa's reflection, and then of course, Perseus killed her, and then she actually helped Jason and the Argonauts build their ship on the quest for the Golden Fleece. So she was always seen as a kind of like helpful figure to heroes and stuff like that, and she was worshipped for that quite often. These are just some images that I wanted to throw in there. This is Arachne and Athena, and this is Medusa and Athena. Um, I actually had a really hard time finding a really accurate picture of Athena and Medusa. And when I say accurate, I mean because in the story, in the true story, Athena is disgusted with Medusa. Like she wants nothing to do with Medusa after Poseidon rapes um, Medusa. So she actually, in punishment of of this like act, she actually is the one who turns Medusa into a gorgon and like gives her all the snakes and everything. And a lot of the pictures online kind of produce kind of see her kind of holding Medusa's face, and Medusa's crying, and so is Athena. And that's not accurate. Like, she was angry at Medusa, and that's another side of Athena that I feel like a lot of people don't really want to like accept. She was very much, she defended the men. She had no sympathy for the women. She defended the men. That's another reason why I chose this image for Arachne. The only reason Athena actually ended up turning Arachne into a spider is because Arachne taunted Athena and actually brought up images of Zeus in the weave of him having like sexual relations with women that weren't Hera, and was kind of taunting Athena. And Athena was like, no, you're not going to disrespect my dad right in front of me. And that's why she turned Arachne into a spider after Arachne killed herself. She also felt bad for Arachne, but it was mainly punishment. Um, but then I would like to draw attention to this slide. This is kind of like the father-daughter slide. It just kind of explains how devoted Athena was to Zeus. She was always at Zeus's right hand. And funny enough, interesting enough, Athena was the only person that was allowed to hold Zeus's lightning bolt. No other god, no other goddess, excuse me, not even according to Bolin, not even Hera was allowed to hold Zeus's lightning bolt, and they just trusted each other full-heartedly. He knew that Athena was completely devoted to him. It was kind of an unbreakable devotion. Like, there was nothing you could do to break the two of them up. This slide kind of explains what happened with Arachne. And then yeah, she was almost too loyal to her father at times where she really shouldn't have been. Like, uh kind of in the time with Arachne, like, that was, of course, like, that was disrespectful, but she took it a little far when she made somebody kill themselves because of the taunting. And she always stood by Zeus no matter what. And there was actually a trial in the book where a man killed his wife, and he uses Athena's devotion to Zeus as kind of an example as to why he killed his wife. And because she was always devoted to Zeus, and women should be devoted to their husbands, and I guess this woman wasn't in the story, and Athena actually had the deciding vote on whether or not this man was to be, you know, like, convicted of this murder, and she actually decided not to be have this man be convicted of this murder because she was like, yeah, you're right. I'm always devoted to men, and I'm always devoted to my family. And if that's really what he was doing, then he's not in the wrong. So really, she can be seen to be too loyal at times. At times it's almost toxic. During my secondary source, I actually had somebody describe her relationship to her father as genuinely toxic. Like, she sees no fault in Zeus. Like, she would die for Zeus, and that's kind of this like psychological warfare she has between Zeus and herself, is she would kill for Zeus. And a lot of times in like new age society, you see that with females that have been almost groomed into loving their fathers even when they are like horrible, horrible, horrible people. And that is really like Athena and Zeus's relationship is very narcissistic. They kind of feed off each other, and it's a really interesting dynamic. Um, and then these are her archetypes. She has so many archetypes, I couldn't even get to them all, but these are the ones I feel like are the most important. The strategist, she's really represented by someone in business climbing the corporate ladder and is always more practical and pragmatic. And the craftswoman, this is a more the domestic side of Athena. Her skills in weaving show, that she can be a housewife. She just doesn't really want to be. Like, she can be that kind of domestic side, but she'll always be seen at her husband's side. She'll never, she'll, sh I would go as far as to say as she would choose her husband over her children. So it's very like strict and yeah. And then there's the father's daughter, and she forms a relationship with the more boss type. And excuse me, sorry. But she forms a relationship with the more of the boss type, and she'll be more conservative and she'll defend tradition. So in newer society, if you would see the father's daughter type, she would be the one that would be defending men always, the one that would hardly ever be seen defending women. She would be very, very conservative, trying not to allow women to change things. She would be completely against the feminist movement, and she would have no desire to see women, you know, be in those powerful positions where a man wasn't close by her, or she hadn't gone up the social ladder through a man. So yeah, it's very interesting. She is for like Athena the child and women today. The Athena children would like the type of Athena children would be very intellectual, and they would ask a lot of questions, and they would always be curious, and they would an example we used would you would actually see these children being able to read at like 3 years old. They would be geniuses. They would be extremely logical. And then Athena women would be stable and outgoing women. They would be very confident and unself-conscious, very fit with not a lot of mental conflicts, like probably not a lot of mental disorders. And they would often look ageless, like they had gotten to where they could and they have just thrived there. And then Athena parents would be, I used the Obamas as the kind of Athena parents because I feel like it describes um, the wanted Athena parents very well, because there are different stages of Athena parents, but the ones that typically are the ones that thrive through like Athena children thrive through would be like the Zeus father, who are encouraging and will help invoke natural confidence in children. So Barack Obama was the president. That would be very, encouraging to try to work up to that. And they and he is a secure man, obviously, because he was able to become the president. So there's with these parents, there's often no conflict of being ambitious, and they have a lot of confidence in themselves. And um a child that has a Zeus father who is too ambitious can be grown up, oh sorry, can actually grow up being unseen. And these children often lack confidence in their abilities because they're never encouraged to go into business, because the Zeus father that's too ambitious is they won't give these children the time of day, so to speak. And then the Zeus parent kind of continued, the mother of Athena's daughters will often feel unseen by their daughters. These will kind of want nothing to do with a very emotional mother, or a mother that is more um, more like, why can't you just relate to me on this level? The Athena daughter will be very practical and be like, you need to leave me alone and get your emotions in check. I don't want to talk to you. Um, but the most successful Athena children will be a successful father and a nurturing mother. Not emotional, but nurturing. Like, she will encourage the child to continue on a very long and wealthy path. So, all right. And then her relationship with women would be not great. She would basically have no relationship with women. She would gravitate more towards men, and because of this, she would have very toxic relationships with women. She would never want to talk about things like boys, or your emotional state, or be creative or anything like that. She'd be very logical, very practical. She'd have a very, very, very hard time making close friends, and if she were to make close friends with females, she would compete with them, and they would get mad. These types of women would get mad at other women for exposing men's bad behavior. So, like with the Me Too movement, she would actually get angry with the woman accusing the man of these allegations and not the man. So she stands with men till the end. And that's kind of what